and the Ontario Parents for Education Support.
Thank you. My name is Julia Evangelisto, and I am here as a parent of children with disabilities and as co-founder of Ontario Parents for Education Support. We are a nonpartisan grassroots parent organization representing families across the province. Our children rely on special education services to meet their basic right to learn. Today, we are asking this committee to increase investment in public education with a targeted focus on the special education budget. Our children cannot succeed in school without deliberate, adequately staffed support. Success is measured by whether our children can attend a full day of school, have meaningful participation, and consistent support from qualified staff. Right now, provincial education policy is failing to create those conditions. Inclusion without staffing, without smaller class sizes, and without specialized instruction and mental health supports is not inclusion. It is neglect. Inclusion is meant to ensure that children with disabilities have real access to learning and dignity alongside their peers. That only happens when classrooms have low staff to student ratios that reflect student needs, and specialized supports are present, including educational assistants, behavioral specialists, and other professionals who help ensure students' needs and disabilities are meaningfully considered into their education. A 2025 report from Community Living Ontario found that approximately 20% of students with disabilities are attending school on a modified or shortened day, not because it benefits the child, but because there are not enough qualified staff available. A parent from Waterloo shared, "My son's school shortened his day to just 3 hours because there is not enough EA support for the full day. This happened without our consent, and we were told it is out of their hands. This has contributed to a mental health crisis for our son." From a parent perspective, these numbers are alarming because behind every statistic is a child losing their education. A 2025 report from the Ontario Public School Boards Association found that boards across Ontario spend about $582 million more on special education than they received from the ministry, helping explain why families are told that the staffing and support their children need aren't available. Under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, there is a clear duty to accommodate persons with disabilities so they can access public education on an equal basis. When staffing and conditions fall short, children are left without the support they need, an outcome parents experience as neglect. There has been a lot of talk lately about student violence. As more students with complex support needs are integrated into regular classrooms, without a corresponding increase in qualified staff presence, situations escalate that could have been prevented. Reports from People for Education and Community Living Ontario show that classrooms are increasingly being evacuated, staff and students are being injured, and mental health and behavioral supports are insufficient to respond, leaving schools in constant crisis mode rather than focused on learning. A parent from Guelph shared, "My son's EA time was cut drastically. He's in grade 6 and still can't read and write. As his learning needs went unmet, he began disrupting the class and even hurt other students. He wasn't acting out, he was overwhelmed and unable to access his learning." These are not acts of intentional harm, but children responding to environments that did not take their needs into account. When these moments are labeled as violence, blame lands on children, instead on the policy decisions that created the conditions they were placed in. I want to speak briefly about two children, Max and Landon. Max was a 7-year-old child with disabilities from Hamilton. His school day was reduced to a modified half day because the necessary staffing was not available for the full day. His family raised concerns about safety and access, but the staffing required to allow him to attend a full day was never restored at the time of his death. Landon was a 16-year-old student with disabilities who was left unsupervised and found unresponsive in a sensory room at his Trenton High School. His family had raised clear concerns about supervision and safety in advance, but those concerns were never resolved in time. Their families were asking for qualified staff, appropriate supervision, and conditions that would allow their children to be safe and supported at school. When warnings are raised again and again without action, this is not a breakdown between families and schools or schools and boards. It is a failure of government policy to respond to clearly identified needs, leaving children without the support they required to keep them safe. Honoring Max and Landon means listening to parents before harm occurs. When children have access to qualified staff, small class sizes, and mental health and special education support services, they are more likely to complete school, develop independence, and move into meaningful employment and community life. This investment also matters for the adults working in schools, reducing staff injuries, medical leaves, and burnout, while creating safer, effective, and inclusive learning conditions for all students.
1 minute.
Early investment reduces crisis responses, exclusions, emergency interventions, and long-term resilience on social and health systems. It is a responsible and cost-effective use of public funds, and the responsibility for those conditions rests at the ministry level. Parents are asking for 3 clear actions. First, increased investment in special education supports, including educational assistance and specialized classes that meet children's needs when those needs are identified, not years later. Second, increased budget capacity for smaller classes and establish low staff to student ratios for all students, so children with complex needs can learn and participate in environments that work for them, and so that every child benefits from Third, makes dedicated budget commitments to mental health supports for all students and make early and
Thank you very
reliable.
much. That concludes the time, and we apologize for having to do that, but hopefully you can get the rest in the question period. So be fair of.
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you to all 3 of you for coming to present today. And I will have questions in both of my slots for each of you. Julia, I'm going to start with you. Thank you for coming on behalf of parents today. We've had a lot of discussion about education over the course of the day and in other sessions. And I'm the mom of teenage boys in the public system. So I would also say I have seen a shift over the years as class sizes have increased. You make a really compelling case for the need for more supports in the classroom. And also for us to cap class sizes and ideally reduce them to make all of this manageable. If there were, if you needed to pick, though, based on what you're hearing from parents, are there certain age ranges that you think it's most important that we kind of move to doing that now? Do you have any suggestions?
I don't think we can look at it in terms of age, because regardless of age, children with disabilities that have additional needs are going to continue to need that support. So I'll use, for example, a child that is deaf. They're going to learn skills and strategies along the way throughout their years. But our hope is that we get that specialized, qualified professionals that are working with those students so that they can gain those skills, and so that we can phase out those supports over time. And if you look at in terms of age, we hope that in the foundational years of the primary grades, kindergarten to grade 3, that we're really supporting children as best as we can so that we can, again, build skills, get them so that they can work together in groups and be able to navigate the school throughout their day safely. Kids that have support, mobility needs, for instance, that they need that extra adult on hand to be able to make sure that they're moving throughout the school safely and that they don't hurt themselves, or that they're keeping the focus and giving them the outlet to emotionally and physically regulate their body so that they're not acting out physically, so that they're able to return to the classroom, to the lesson situation, and be able to focus and retain and gain some of that knowledge that's being taught. But if we don't have those supports early on, then the problems just get bigger as they get
Yes.
older. And
Yeah.
we end up needing more supports down the road, even though we could have prevented a lot of what is needed. And what we're hearing from parents in our community is that if it's not being given or if it's taken away, and lately there's been a reduction in EA support, for example, that a child that did have full-time support was reduced to half-time and was made to be able to, or forced to move throughout the school and through the learning without that help and attention on their needs. And then it's being reduced even less and less. And so if we can have it possible to be given children what they need when they need it, we can reduce it down the road and have the long-term investment in so that they can develop and learn skills and gain independence and be able to move throughout the rest of their lives more successfully. But if we're you know, there are populations of children that are going to require support throughout their entire educational journey. And those children are able to stay in school until they're 21. And then they would transition to some sort of adult day program past that. And so there's not a one-size-fit-all approach. We have to make sure that all of the components are thoughtfully considered so that all of it works. Because if pieces of it are missing, it becomes ineffective. It's like getting a puzzle from a garage sale, and you hope and wish that all of the pieces are going to be intact, but if they're not, it becomes useless, and I can't use it. And so the same goes for children. If they're not given what they need when they need it in terms of speech and language assistance, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and especially when we look in the north, those services and the service providers are fewer and far between. And the geography definitely plays into how and where professionals can meet kids and give recommendations to the schools so that they can develop in their language acquisition and be able to learn the skills of reading and writing.
Great,
so
thank you.
In terms of looking at the longevity of children that have needs, yes, early prevention is needed, but there are still a wide population that is going to need support and programs.
Thank you very much. That concludes the time for that question.
Thank you.
We'll now go to...
My next question will go to Julia. You made a very good presentation, and you mentioned three things that increased investment, smaller class sizes, mental health support. I'm gonna try and get to what is what would make the biggest. I know it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and if you're missing a couple pieces, you can't finish the puzzle. But what can at least get us the picture, right? Like I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly, but
yes, absolutely. The biggest impact would be smaller class sizes. If we're going to have a system that is based on a model of inclusion where everybody is included into the classroom makeup, and we need to be able to provide smaller settings so that kids can focus. And currently the system in the province is, in regards to class sizes, especially in the elementary grades, there's a cap on grades 1 to 3 at 20 kids per class, but that's a board average. So there might be a couple areas that have higher population, and it raises a little bit. In grades 4 to 8, there is no class cap size. And again, with the board, there's a recommended kind of soft cap at 28, but that does exceed. And specifically in the north, in areas that have smaller classes because of lower population, the school might have 75, under 100 students. And so in larger areas, the classes in those small communities are about 15, 20, 23 students, very low, but there's 2 or 3 grades within that one class. And then if you go to Timmins, for example, the classes are, there's a greater population, and because the board averages, those classes are much greater, raising to close to a 30, 32 class size, because it averages out amongst the board, because the smaller classes in the smaller communities gives it the ratio average. And so smaller classes for everybody is going to be better. Kids are going to be able to focus. Teachers are going to be able to deliver their lesson without as many interruptions, be able to do more personalized instruction. Currently, there are too many students for the amount, and the complexity of needs that are present is too great for the amount of kids that are in classes, and kids can't learn and teachers can't teach, and it's unsustainable. So smaller class sizes would have the most immediate impact.
Thank you.
MPP Fairclough.